Howdy, Management and Team Building, the City of Southlake, Texas. Robert Briggs, Andrew Farquhar, and Amy Smith. The photo that you see is of the Stars and Stripes Independence Day celebration that takes place annually and usually draws more than 35,000 people. Pretty city. Citizens of the city of Southlake chose the city's name because it was indeed south of the lake, which had just been built 4 years prior, Lake Grapevine. The population is now over 30,000 people, a high median income of more than 170,000, and a high median home price of more than $671,000. Large corporations include Sabre Holdings, TD Ameritrade, and Verizon Wireless. In 1987, the city decided to move to a council city manager government because it combines the strengths of political leadership with the city council and professional experience with the city manager. The city council determines the purpose, scope of services, budget, taxes, ordinances, handles complaints, oversees administration and organizational performance, and city managers advise, analyze conditions and trends, make recommendations, formulate budget, and implement policy. Here is the organizational structure of the city of Southlake, with 2 assistant city managers, as well as functions such as communication, finance, HR, IT, which now reports to the CFO, we found out in our interview, as well as performance management. Along the left-hand side, you see community services, economic development and tourism, fire, police, and that is where our colleague on this project, Robert Briggs, serves so well, planning and development services, and public works. And together, it's really matrices, 2 matrix-like components that fit together as you analyze the structure, which makes teamwork and processes all the more important to help with morale and goals and accomplishments. The mayor of Southlake is Laura Hill. Mayor Hill presides over meetings and over votes. She serves as the head of government for ceremonial purposes and really is the chief spokesperson for the city. She has had an impressive career with being an entrepreneur and a co-owner of Downey Publishing, and also has founded some very interesting organizations that have served others. We were able to look at the websites of those, and it's very impressive, and I think that makes her who she is and her leadership position with the city. And the city manager is Shanna K. Yelverton, who, as we said earlier, advises, formulates budget, manages resources to support policy and administrative functions. She's been in her role since 2005, and prior to that was an assistant city manager, which provides a lot of continuity for the city. The city in particular does a lot of strategic work and exercises, as we learned earlier in the semester, for a related project, and so it's been very impressive. And she has served on the board of directors for the Southlake Chamber of Commerce, been part of executive and leadership forums, has received numerous honors, has her Master's of Public Administration, and has served on adjunct faculty for the University of Texas at Arlington. And we as Texas A&M folks will not judge that because she does a great job in what she does. I also think we should point out that we were scheduled to interview her, but she was really caught up in a lot of COVID work, very important work that she had, and other responsibilities, and was exactly where she needed to be. So we were able to study, meet with Mayor Hill, and conduct interviews with the CFO, Ms. Jackson, and we'll touch on that later on, but appreciate her service as well. Our leadership review focused on leader impact on team members. Team leaders can affect other team members' behaviors by encouraging and facilitating competencies. And that just really hit home a lot with our research, not only through the literature review, but also when we were interviewing folks in their practical work. We heard time and time again, being able to help other team members by encouraging and helping them with their competencies was very important. Chen talks about analyzer, director, creator, connector, different types of leaders who balance assertiveness and responsiveness in different ways, and very important for considerations for managing teams. Team needs are not universal. Teams can be bound by scope, time, and budget, triple constraints, which vary in availability depending upon circumstances. That's according to Henkel, Marlin, and Bordeaux. Managers consider their role as stewards of their organization's resources and their team's abilities. Managers and leaders reflect their values and what is available to them in executing their task with those values in action. Public service delivery involves high level of intricacy and requires teams to brainstorm solutions in such a manner that implementing managers are brought outside of their depth of knowledge. This is Chen and Rainey. And we studied Zentara and Kaczynski in post-communist Poland leadership top-down approach, formalized bureaucracy, which quite frankly undermined the voices and the value of the employees in the study that they conducted. So it really drove home how rules which surround managerial practices impact teamwork and morale. Diversity was an important part of literature review that we conducted as well. Failing to draw a team reflective of a wider society creates blind spots in priorities and perceptions of leaders. And this is particularly important for public sector managers. They have to not just have the practical considerations of organizing a team culturally competent enough to achieve tasks, but an ethical and political obligation to represent the public as completely as possible. And you can't represent the public as completely as possible if you don't have a group that provides those different perspectives as well. Combining individual perspectives from different socioeconomic strata and other backgrounds creates, and this is one of my colleagues' graduate school words, gestalt competency, which means greater than the sum of its parts, is what can happen when you're working with a good team. And then understanding that strengths and more flexible access to resources is really an important part of intergovernmental relations. And finally, our research talked about the networks of actors rather than just a hierarchy. And that is so important. We certainly see that. I certainly see that as a state employee myself. It's not always about hierarchy. It's about those single actors and networks of actors within groups and among groups. Just as we saw earlier with the different matrices, it is really important that those folks work well across the city of Southlake, not just within their own part of it. Interviews, leadership lessons in practice. As mentioned, we interviewed Mayor Hill and learned a lot from her. She talked about key committees and work groups, networking, and how important it is to network with neighboring city mayors. In doing so, they've been able to figure out ways to share transportation costs, share best practices, especially now during the COVID-19 crisis. And she also talked about managing people. Positive people are always positive. They're always a positive influence on organizations. It was very helpful that she was candid about negative people. And sometimes there's this exclusion or selective exclusion that can take place where, they're not a part of teams on certain projects and other things. And some quickly learn that in order to be part of those projects that you desire to be part of, you need to have an executive presence and get with the program, for lack of a better word. That's my words, not hers. But certainly what we took away from her ability is to acknowledge as a public administrator, and really as any leader, that you're going to have positive and you're going to have negative, and you've got to work through both. And also just avoiding calling people out. So she talked about how she withholds voicing her own opinion until she can really hear from others, so that they're not just echoing what she would say, but she can truly hear the perspectives as others. And being able to assign people or select people for certain projects, really aligning them to their interests. What are they interested in? Miss Jackson, Sharon Jackson, is Chief Financial Officer for the City of Southlake. Also a very impressive background in accounting, and brings a wide variety of experience as a CPA and members of various prestigious associations. You can see her here with recognition that she has received. And her leadership points included really looking at the big picture and understanding that there's intertwining items that occur within that bigger picture, but to force yourself as a leader to take that bigger picture, and that it's not easily measured, and to concede that leadership is not always easily measured. She talked about the fact that diversity ensures a healthy debate and a better end product, and it's something that she really encourages, as well as coalition building. She talked about a specific Clifton Strengths process that she has been through, and a tool set that she's used, and the importance of knowing your non-negotiables. And with her, that's organizational culture, team environment, and core values. Those items must be in place in order to have an effective relationship with her and in order to achieve goals. And it was also a pleasure to listen to her. Our team mentioned earlier that City Manager Shannon Yelverton was unable to accommodate an interview. She was been very busy with COVID-19 response, and sadly, one of the city employees lost her life to COVID-19, Darlene Rubio with Public Works, former U.S. Marine. We thought it important to conduct our primary research on this as well. This showing heart, showing compassion, which is what City Manager Yelverton did, in taking time out to honor Miss Rubio. And our condolences to the city of Southlake, but also appreciate this symbol of leadership and compassion. In conclusion, our research focused on the theoretical, the empirical, and the practical and best practices. Theoretical and theories, empirical evidence-based case studies, and practical real-world examples in the individuals and the leaders that we interviewed, and came away with 3 key takeaways. First, team building should be deliberate, selecting based on a variety of factors, which included, as we heard from Mayor Hill, the interest of the people that are part of it. What are their interests? As well as other theories that we read about in looking at how do you build the competencies of those team members and selecting teams for them to be on in order to yield the best results. Organizational team culture is something to start early on and to take time to consistently invest in maintaining that culture. And appreciation of diversity. This is in background and socioeconomic strata, as well as diversity of thought. The whole package makes a team better. Being able to have a willingness to respectfully express professional opinions in order to aid the team. And as we learned from the example in Poland, the importance of not driving just a top-down strategy which can reduce morale, but to really listen and encourage that. This concludes our presentation. we would like to thank you for, and would like to thank Professor Nakamura for the semester, and wish everybody a safe and healthy summer. And thank you very much, and gig 'em.